there's a paper trail that we got to follow. You know what I'm saying? So my goal here is to, talk about COVID, exploring the human microhome, SARS-CoV-2 in question, architected by I. But my main goal here is to help you find yourself. Because if I said, where are you? What would you say? One person.
Right here.
Right here? We're going to see where right here is. And real quick, just so everybody walk around saying, I learned about the microhome today. It's not a real word. I made it up. The human body has a microbiome composed of all of the living organisms that make you, that live their own individual lives. They really don't care too much about you, actually. So, we have any people who believe in a creator in here? Yeah, a few. Okay, cool. So with that, I want to take a little scripture, and kind of talk about a little bit that the ancestors would say. So, this is from 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19 and 20. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. Another one from Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in views of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And we finna get this work, so I hope y'all take some notes, because we're going to renew some minds. And then you will be able to test and approve that God's will is his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Amen. So, the Bible also says people perish for lack of knowledge. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to deal with here. So, you are made up of genetic material we call RNA and DNA. RNA takes the DNA and translates that to people who can't necessarily understand, like, I need my best friend Chris to translate his abuela, because when she said, oh, that's my grandson, I'll be like, you need some water? You know what I'm saying? And then he breaks that down, and now I'm able to understand what she's saying, and now I can operate properly. Now I can give her a hug because I've gotten that direction, right? So, why is that important? Because we're here to talk about a virus. So the question is, what is a virus? If I ask somebody what's a virus in here, what would you respond? In 1 second. In one sentence, right?
A pathogen.
A pathogen. An infection.
Something that causes biological disease.
Okay. Well, you all agree with me that you're all composed of genetic material, right? We're going to get a little bit sciencey, but I'm going to make sure I break it down, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to get lost in the sauce of words, but words are our GPS to reality. So without breaking down what these words mean, we get lost in a language that's explaining a phenomenon. The word itself is not what exists. So a virus is simply genetic information that is foreign to you. Right? So if RNA and DNA makes up a virus, and you have DNA and RNA, we're saying that life is viral. So with that in mind, we might have to break this down a little bit more. So your self is composed of cells. Where is our GPS to reality? See how these things kind of be going together? We have, on average, 37.2 trillion cells. The cells serve as a chemical warehouse, a place where all of the chemical reactions take place. Your metabolism, the ability to breathe, the ability to use the bathroom. The ability to give somebody love. That's rooted in your cells. But we was always taught that we're cells. Everybody knows that. But we don't also realize that we are actually more bacteria than cells. And that we have at least 30 to 40 trillion different types of bacteria all within our body, all making us up and actually producing the protein machinery that makes stuff work in our body. So we got the 30 to 40 trillion. There's 380 plus trillion viruses in the human body. When we look at that, we have to say, well, what is going on? If we're talking about machinery, just like when we talk about blockchain, just when we talk about computers, just when we talk about any type of technology, there has to be an intelligence coding the technology to make it do what it's supposed to do, to make it perform the requested action. That is being done by the viruses. Because again, what is a virus? DNA and RNA. What is a virus, guys? Genetic material that is foreign to your body. That doesn't mean that you don't have a virus. It doesn't mean that you aren't a living virus walking right now. It's just native to you, so we don't call it that. You feel me? My grandma always tell me ain't nothing new under the sun. That is the same thing with coronaviruses. So coronaviruses, they come from a family called Coronavirus, and it's actually the largest family of viruses in the RNA world, meaning that it's been around for a really, really, really long time. And when viruses go inside of you, with, for example, like a vaccine, they give you a small dose of a virus so that your body can learn how to protect itself against the virus. It can adapt. But what they don't tell you is, every time a virus leaves you, it actually leaves with more information about you and how you work and your defenses. If a scout gets into this castle and it gets out, it's going to tell the homies. So, there are hundreds of variations of coronaviruses, but only 7 of them have actually been known to be present in human beings. So that means that the rest of them are being incubated in these different animals that are present, the bats, the this, the that, you know what I'm saying? And so that movement of viral information has the ability to affect us in a lot of different ways, and we'll kind of get to that in a little bit. And just to kind of give you an idea about how long we've known about these coronaviruses, it's been since about the 1960s that we've known about it, but we've been getting infected with coronaviruses for hundreds, if not thousands, if not since the beginning of man. Because the common cold is a coronavirus. Have you ever gotten one of those? Then you've had a coronavirus. So, coronavirus in particular causes mild to moderate upper respiratory tract illness. And there are 3 different types of coronavirus in the past 20 years that have posed serious public health threats. We got SARS-CoV, which the actual disease for it is called SARS, Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. We'll break that down a little bit. You have MERS-CoV, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, and then you got SARS-CoV-2. And also, before I go to the next slide, y'all gonna see in my slides I got all type of animations, little wiggly gooey looking things on the inside of these membranes. But I'm trying to take you on a journey to help you understand yourself and understand that this is how you look on the inside of yourself with a bit more detail. So what's in the name? Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. It's real simple. If words are GPS to reality, I think we need to break this down. Severe, intense, acute, sudden onset. Respiratory, relating to or affecting breathing. A syndrome. This is the key, y'all. What is a disease? A syndrome is simply a set of symptoms that you deal with. For example, Diabetes isn't necessarily a thing. There's not a thing in your body called diabetes. There are things that are happening. There are sets of symptoms that are taking place. And when you categorize all these symptoms and lump them up into one thing, we title that as a disease, as a syndrome. So what do? We figure out the name of a virus because the name of the virus is actually what tells you literally what it's doing. That's why this virus is called severe acute respiratory syndrome. It's telling you, it's giving you a respiratory set of symptoms that are acute, happening in the short term upon viral infection. And to kind of break the line, severe acute respiratory syndrome 2 is a virus. It is not the disease. The disease is known as 2019 novel coronaviruses. And the reason why I have to make that distinction is because we are viral beings, we're more viruses than we are cells, than we are bacteria, and we're more bacteria than we are cells, right? We have to look and say, just because I get infected with a virus, does that mean that I'm going to suffer from the virus? How many people know somebody who had COVID but was asymptomatic? How many of y'all know somebody who had COVID but was pretty much in the hospital? What's the difference? If it's the same virus, what's the difference?
Genetic makeup.
Genetic makeup? Genetics plays a role, but the thing that really sets the tone is the environment that you put yourselves in. We have to see ourselves as a place that is inhabited by bacteria, which is worked on, which is powered by, which is ran by viral information. Our genetics. But more so the genetics of our environment as a whole. Because every time I shake your hand, I'm getting viruses off your hand. You know, I scratch my head. Or people who are in a relationship for a long period of time start to look like each other. How does that happen? Or people start to look like their dog because we're always sharing viral information. So when it starts to get broken down like this, you'll be like, that kind of makes sense. So we have a coronavirus right here. Y'all can't really see it too good, but I like these words. And when you deal with corona, the etymology of it, breaking down that word in the story of where it comes from, it leads us to a crown, or the luminous circle observed around the sun during total eclipses. Which is funny, because I found a really, really dope article, like June, July, something like that, and it was actually talking about the UV radiation from the light being able to essentially disintegrate the COVID-19 virus. And what was so crazy was Instagram actually took down the post, and I got blocked from the National Center of Biotechnology Information for about 2 days for posting that information, only to go back in and find the actual documentation from Boston University to post it again, because that wasn't my information. That was a study that was done, facts that are in the ether. So before I really start to break down COVID a little bit more, I want to kind of stick on this viral thing. I have a little cartoon here, and this guy here, he comes with like a little pack, and he's like, here, have this DNA fragment. And he's like, next time you're attacked by the shock molecules, you'll be able to defeat them as easily as we did. Remember when the homie get out the castle, he going back to his friends and telling them how to get up in there because everybody eats, right? So a man's like, what's this? A weapon, a superpower? It's like, sort of, it's a copy of a fragment of my DNA. The sharing of genetic information is how viruses evolve. It's how humans evolve. It's how species turn into another thing. It's not done in a day. It's done over lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of sharing this information. So, he says, some time ago I found that I had the power to destroy the antibiotic shock forces. And then I understood I had a mission to create a resistance movement against the oppression. And he's like, he's sharing a part of your DNA. How is that possible? My man said, we bacteria have the ability of transferring genes horizontally. Humans, like the one we inhabit, have vertical transfer only. What does that mean? Mama, daddy, have a baby, that's vertical. You sharing genes with your cat, that's horizontal. So, humans, a man say, what is a human? The bacteria said, what is a human? Remember I said they don't even really know about you. As above, so below. Does the human really always concern himself with what he's doing to the body that he lives in or she lives in, known as Earth? Right? Sometimes we do good things, sometimes we do bad things, but it's not necessarily because we're considering the body that we're a part of. We don't necessarily think of ourselves as a part of this earth body, but what do? We breathe out carbon dioxide. We breathe that in the trees. They give you back oxygen. We are a part of the economy, the energy economy, just like the bacteria inside of your body. They have to work together, and you have good forces and bad forces. And the type of force that they represent is based off the intel that they have, right? Because people are what? A product of their environments. Come on now. So, we're going to move. Horizontal gene transfer is what? The movement of genetic material between unicellular and multicellular organisms. You guys are what? Multicellular or unicellular? One or multiple? Multiple. But you have many unicellular organisms living inside you, living with you. And I'm saying the same thing over again, not to be repetitive, but I need you guys to understand that you are not you. You are a community. And when you understand that you are a community, and you're the head of that, you're the collective consciousness of this community, you have a responsibility to the people that live there. 1 second, y'all. Let me plug this in. Y'all doing all right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Be prepared, you know what I'm saying? So, basically, we share genetic information with our fellow organisms. Just kind of like in class, where you be having your test, you got to get an A on, and your homeboy, you know, it ain't really studying it, you don't want him to cheat off you. So, hey, see what they got. You know, you be like, how you get an A? Because I learned from you. So, I got a couple of photos. I want to break down the process of COVID a little bit before I give y'all a little bit more solutions. So, here we have SARS-CoV-2. This is the spike protein. These little light bulb looking things here. Can y'all see this good enough? It attaches here to the ACE2 protein right on the membrane. The human body here, you're taking in the virus, breathing it in, or coming into your mouth, is going into the lungs and getting into these crevices, alveolars. What do those things do? That's your first line of defense once you get into the lungs that's protecting you from pathogens in yourself. We all have a membrane, these mucous membranes that protect the innards of our cell. Why would you want to protect the innards of our cell? Well, what would happen if I took a bunch of ants and sat on a big gash that you had and let them crawl inside of you? It would probably be real uncomfortable. That's why we have skin, this membrane to protect us. That membrane, because this virus is attaching to the ACE2 protein, or the receptor rather, it's messing with the normal function of it. In doing so, it's causing blood vessels to erode. It's causing blood vessels to leak. It's causing white blood cells to release things called histamines, these things that allow them to move through this permeable wall known as our membrane. And once they get in, what are they doing? How is this happening? Finney told us that the thing that we're dying from most is heart disease. You ever touch somebody and shock them? Yeah? So what does that mean? That was electricity, right? So is it fair to say that the body is electric? Yeah, it is. So, what is the source of this electricity? What is the source of this light energy? My company is called Light Body Herbals. Why? Because something called mitochondria. We have organs inside of ourselves. This particular one makes the light, produces the light. Every time we do a push-up, every time you do a sit-up, you run, you produce more light in your body, this energy, the thing that animates you. Remember I said, where are you? The mitochondria used to be a bacteria. It was engulfed by a cell. And they created this relationship like a mom and daddy does. And what happens if you go back 1,000 years to your mom and daddy then? And you think about everything that happened from their one merger, all the different bodies that came about, and all the collective viral information that came about because of that one relationship. Well, that's what we're talking about with the mitochondria in the cell, or yourself. This thing came to help you produce energy. Side note, you only get mitochondria from your mom. So, what does the mitochondria do? It regulates your nuclear genome, which is the nucleus of your cell. The things that literally regulate your day-to-day life is ran by these little bitty things. Why am I talking about that? Viruses hack bacteria, and they use them like a very, very evil person would use another person and manipulate them for their own benefit until they're dry and have nothing left and they're ready to die. That's the same thing that's happening in this mitochondria because COVID is localizing here. It is getting into that mitochondria and using it to replicate itself with its machinery. And when it's using to replicate itself to as much as it can, the mitochondria dies off. And what happens when the mitochondria dies off? We get what's called aging. Do you think aging is a product of getting old? Y'all ever seen somebody who's 70 years old but don't look it? Somebody that's 30 years old but look like they're 80? Age is an imaginary subset of numbers that was made up by us to help us understand us, because us is too big for us to understand.
So that 3 times 5.
You know what I'm saying? But this guy here, when that mitochondria starts to leak, when that mitochondria starts to damage, you get aging. And where's the most mitochondria? In the heart and in the brain. The number one cause of death, heart disease. The second one is neurodegeneration. Didn't I say the body's electric? Yeah. What are we talking about? So, this guy right here, let's get into it a little bit more. So, COVID gets inside. What happens? We talk about these white blood cells starting to come. They start to do their thing. Well, we have these different, y'all heard of inflammation? Yeah? Hit something real hard, you get a swelling. That's acute, short term. Over time, you might have a pulmonary disorder. You might have cachexia, which is what people with cancer have that causes them to get small. This chronic wasting which is happening from inflammation. If you have gout, you're struggling with inflammation. If you have eczema, you're struggling with inflammation. If you have COVID and you are in the hospital and you're suffering because you can't breathe, you're suffering from inflammation. What the heck is inflammation? And what's inside of us making that? Well, we know we got something that's aggravating the situation, but they aren't necessarily the ones doing the work. They're just aggravating the situation, right? They're just the virus. They're not the symptoms. Then we broke that down. Tumor necrosis factor, interleukin 1, interleukin 6, and a whole bunch of these crazy words that they give us just to explain something that's causing inflammation in our body. When that happens, we get something called a cytokine storm. Y'all heard of that? That's when all the white blood cells in your body, they start having a party. They start going crazy. And they build adhesion, they build friction. And that can cause things to break. That can cause things to burst. Like in an example of thrombosis or an example of a stroke. Yeah, you might have a buildup of plaque, but what causes things to rupture is the inflammation. As it says here, we get endothelial damage. We were just talking about that mucous membrane, right? Oh, the ACE2 protein is right on the surface of the mucous membrane. We got to start connecting these things and seeing that that damage is taking place. And when that damage is taking place, it's actually causing fluids to build up in the lung that's a jello-like fluid. And now you got jello in your lungs, you got inflammation taking place at the same time. Of course, you can't breathe. So we get some type of systematic disease based off of that. Just pick which one. Sinusitis, inflammation of the sinuses. What is it? Colitis, something like that? Inflammation in the gut. What are we talking about? I wanted to give y'all a better picture of inside yourself. My bad. Inside your cells. This is your mitochondria here. This is where that thing is localizing. This is the nucleus. You have all that genetic information inside of here. We've been learning about this since we was in like 4th grade, 3rd grade, learning about the nucleus, learning about the cell. But we never knew that the mitochondria had more genetic information than your cell. Nucleus, that is. We never knew that the mitochondria was regulating your nucleus. If we said that your nucleus regulates everything, and the mitochondria regulates, maybe we need to go back to mama. So, how do we weather the storm? We've identified the inflammation. We know how the virus is getting inside of us. We know that the virus is using the mitochondria to replicate itself. With the information that we've gathered, knowing that I'm not Kelvin, I'm a composition of trillions of organisms that are living and trying to make a way, who have to eat and who respond based off of the environment that I create. How do you create an environment? By eating a particular diet. For example, if you were to eat a plant-based diet, you would literally change your microbiome in 30 days. You see a benefit in so many different things. Matter of fact, let's do it like this. You ever gave up a food for a long period of time? Pork? Milk?
Yeah.
When you go back to it, it hurt?
Yes.
Yes. The reason why it hurts is because you shifted your microbiome. It's no longer the same. You have new microbes. You created a new environment. So what they tell you, you can't heal if you're in the same environment, right? That's because you're doing the same thing, you're breathing the same air, you're drinking the same water, you're talking to the same people, you're eating the same foods. Nothing is going to change. But when you change those different things, just like when you change your being, when you change your insides, the people around you start to change. You either going to attract something better or attract something worse. People going to decide to get around you more, or they're going to decide to get away from you based off of who they are and based off of who you are. And that affinity, that attraction, that magnetism. And anytime we have magnetism, we have what? Electricity. Did I say that? Oh, okay. We're going to keep going. So, how do we weather the storm? How do we weather the cytokine storm? First things first, I ain't trying to hear nothing about no grapes, no water, no nothing until you get out into the sun. Period. Y'all live in the South. I'm from Chicago. Y'all better take advantage of this UVB that y'all get. I'm telling you, I have something to track my vitamin D. It's called D-Minder app. It's free if you guys want to check that out. It is literally crazy to see the difference in light that you guys have available to produce the vitamin D at a faster rate. So when we're looking at a white person, they telling us that they need to be in the sun for 15 to 20 minutes a day. If you were to do that, you're deficient. Why does that matter? Because vitamin D controls the production and the regulation of over 2,000 100,000 different genes. Who got Google? Somebody pull up Google?
Pull up. Google?
Yep.
Google?
Do me a favor. Type in COVID-19 and vitamin D. When you get that, just scroll down to the bottom and let us know how many hits you get. If it's 5 hits, or if it's 1 million hits, just so we can understand the prevalence of this information, how it's everywhere except for with us.
COVID-19 and what?
And vitamin D. Yes. And we want to participate in sun worship. We don't want to just get in the sun. We want to work out in the sun. We want to do yoga in the sun. We want to breathe in the sun. We want to laugh in the sun. Because why do we want to laugh? Because laughing produces something called interferons, which actually upregulates your immune response to viruses. It's the thing that your body secretes when viruses are inside of your body. So make a good joke today. Even if it's not funny, laugh anyway. There's actually work done where you can see people who have loads of inflammation in their body. The body scan is red. The body scan is yellow in the knees, in the joints, in the head, in the legs, all these different places. And my man goes out, and it's not no vegan. My man smokes squares. He out there drinking his liquor. He got his henny, all that. But he goes out into the sun, and he goes out into the soil, and his feet touches the dirt. Yeah, let me ask you. When the last time your feet touched the dirt?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay, we got some old people who touched the dirt yesterday. But when the last time y'all feet touched the dirt? Let me ask y'all. Has anybody gone a year without their feet touching the dirt? The reason why I ask that is because when we start to think about that, how could that be? In fact, humans are part of the animal kingdom, right? Is there another animal in the animal kingdom that goes a year or even a day without touching the soil? Fall in line is what I'm saying. Not with me. But I just showed you guys the scriptures. I didn't make the soil and I didn't make you. So, we definitely want to get in the sun. We definitely want to get in the ground. That's that screwing in because the body is light. You got to screw that light bulb in. Breathing exercises like the things that we did when we were outside because the whole issue is oxygen deprivation. Hypoxia is the term. Low levels of oxygen in the blood. One of the things that's kind of important to realize with that, Fanny showed a lot of foods that a lot of folks are eating. I know everybody didn't raise their hand in school, you ain't have to tell yourself, but I know. So, the coffees, all these different things are depleting your body of iron. That is very, very crucial because you already are deficient in iron as a black person 9 times out of 10. Right? And when they give you the iron supplements, they don't have that attraction to you. The term that is specific is bioavailability. In your biology, it is not available as opposed to iron that's coming from a plant, like the highest source of it, which is dandelion weed, which grows free and wild. Yet, we don't know, we don't tap in, we perish from the lack of knowledge, right? That's important for a lot of reasons. Your iron intake is going to have a direct effect on your vitamin D metabolism. Your vitamin D metabolism intake is going to have an effect on your iron uptake and metabolism. People who are anemic have weak immune systems. People who are anemic have weak thyroids. Thyroids regulate the metabolism. Didn't I just say that 75% of the dollars in the medical field are going to metabolic disease, and then the thing that follows metabolic disease is heart and brain disease? Follow the money. Somebody getting paid off that. Meditation and prayer. These type of things calm the soul. These type of things do have actual benefits. just increasing the level of oxygen that's flowing to your body and getting to the muscles is going to increase your ability to produce mitochondria. Being in the sun is going to increase your ability to produce mitochondria. All these things is super, super, super important. If you're a light body, we need the light machine to actually produce these things and keep it going, keep the maintenance right. And so, hyperhydration. Anybody had 3 bottles of water today? Raise your hand. Okay. Anybody had 2 bottles of water? Anybody had 1 bottle of water? Who had no water? Tell the truth, raise your hand. Let me tell you something. It don't matter what herb you take. It don't matter what you are doing out here. Nothing in the body works dry. We was talking about building pyramids. So if we go to the pyramid builders in ancient Kemet, those black folk over there that was doing their thing, they had a term called I. When they said I, it didn't just mean I. It didn't just mean I. I meant pool of water. And you were referring to yourself. So if you are a pool of water and you're running dry, then what are you? An empty cup. So you got to fill that joint up. But it's a difference between living water and the dead water. What we keep talking about with the stuff with the tap water, because if that stuff is living, think about all the different hard turns that it has to make in these pipes. Like, just to come out of your sink. And so the structure of this water is being broken down. This water doesn't have the structure that it needs, the hexagonal structure that it needs in order to store light. You ain't necessarily got to understand all the ins and outs of this, but we keep going back to light. So that keeps bringing us back to mitochondria. We know COVID is messing with our mitochondria. And we know that without water, we ain't got nothing going on. So in addition to getting inflammation to drain out of your body, when your feet are touching the soil, when you're screwing in, the earth, sends up electric energy called electrons or negative ions, infrared energy. And that infrared literally restructures the actual molecule shape of the waters inside of your bodies. And because of that, you can increase your hydration. And that's the whole goal with hyperhydration, because a lot of us, we struggling from the get-go. So by the time the virus actually does onset, we've been dehydrated for a month. I don't know what to tell you at that point. We got to do this work early. We know the threat is here. So we have to do this work earlier. And 2020 was a year where everybody went and protested about police killing black folks, and I'm not with nobody killing black folks, believe that. But I'm not about to march for that until we march for this stuff. Because I guarantee you the numbers on here, who died? Grandma didn't get killed from police brutality. So, good home air circulation. Super, super crucial. A lot of us, we be in the house, windows shut, ain't got no circulation. At least one time a day, you want to open up all the windows in the house, let that air circulate, get those particles out the air. If you could get a diffuser, an oil diffuser, that would be awesome. Load it up with some drops so you can lift this oil. Yeah.
We got one in the house right here.
Yeah, there we go.
All those particles.
See, y'all didn't even know. But then eucalyptus literally knocks out the bacteria in the air.
What about those ionizers? They help you? Ionizers that they use to kill odors in the air and particles and stuff?
Can't really speak to the ionizers. Jael, you know about the ionizers?
Yes, sir. We are. Yes, that's what we got. The new technology is in NASA's Hall of Fame. It's the same technology that they're using to send the astronauts in the space shuttles and bring them back alive to death. So that technology is tested in FDA laboratories, military laboratories, used in Cleveland clinics, hospitals in their operating room to make sure that bacteria isn't getting to those bodies bodies while they're operating them. This technology is 99.99. So, knowing that I was coming here today, we're using that technology to clean churches up, cleaning the surface, the air, the pollutants, the mold, the mildew, the COVID, all of it.
Wow.
And it does it in 3 minutes. You can turn it on a Saturday night and kill all the COVID viruses, pollutants, mold, mildew, and it's certainly cheaper than spraying stuff on and wiping it, and you don't have to do it.
So having a filtration system put in your HVAC system at home.
Definitely.
It's a simple little machine. It gets rid of all the odors. It has a retail of $1,500. It has a wholesale of $600. Anybody can buy one. You know, they even have a little personal. So this is protecting me 30 inches out, so it's like I'm walking around in my own bubble.
Yeah.
So I do have to breathe my own poison air. And it does work. I mean, if a policeman goes to a meeting who has one on, the 4 other policemen have to go to the hospital after the meeting, whether the COVID was in the room or someone brought it in. But if he had his fresh air with that technology, he didn't have to go to the hospital.
So he's the only one that's
So the other thing about this technology is that it's already been approved by the Food and Drug Administration.
Yes. And who is working with this company now kind of suspiciously is Fosse's assistant for the whole time that he was there at the, his assistant, Dr. Curtis. She's working with this company. She knows that it's carrying the technology that will keep you safe. And it's interesting, I think I have a conversation, they make a living water machine, so I want to know if it's causing the hexagon in the water so that it can make those molecules so small they get in and hydrate from the body, but they're just called living water.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to what Finney was saying about the blood-brain barrier, this barrier that literally stops things from getting into the brain. The problem is with our poor source of water, the actual molecules of it are literally too large for it to pass through the blood-brain barrier, so your brain is not getting enough water, right? So that's why me personally, I'm drinking the spring water, even though I understand that it's not the best water, because this is still being made by some company and I'm trusting them, but it is better than the other sources that you have. But y'all live in South Carolina, y'all like in Chicago, y'all got the Hill and Springs water in Blackville, Blacktown. One more time for me. Blackville. I always be saying Blacktown, y'all want that. But in addition to that air piece, we gotta realize too, and this is on a side note, a lot of people talk about chemtrails, and it's bad. Not bad in the way people talk about it, but more importantly, it's dropping aluminum into the air, and that is not actually you falling down. So if I spray some air freshener at the top of the room, it's not going to fall down and hit you, you know what I'm saying? But what's going to happen is, when that is in the atmosphere permeating the air, acid rain falls down, and then that aluminum gets into the crops. That aluminum gets into the water. This is the trick. Plants have a higher ability. Well, let me start off saying this. Animals have, we're animals. We have zero ability to filter heavy metals from our body on our own, with our own mechanisms that are born within us, as opposed to a plant that has the ability to take a lot of different toxins into the soil and convert them into different nutrients and so on and so forth. Versions of, well, I'll do it like this. We talk about erosion back in the day in school with the rocks. You can think of that as the bank for the minerals and the nutrients that go into our soils and so on and so forth. So, when it comes to things getting into our soil, the plants and the roots and the microbial community that it also has, just like you, takes up those things and turns it into nutrients for you. When we're eating meats and flesh, that have been consuming things like aluminum, it has no ability to filter that out. So you know who's eating that? You are. So now we go back to ADHD, we go back to neurodegeneration. My great grandma just passed a dementia last year in the summer. That's the only reason why I know this. So we'll talk about a few ways to kind of help detox that stuff from you when I give you guys some things to help with COVID. But to continue, plant-based nutrition, y'all. Plant-based nutrition. Finney mentioned fiber. If you are eating a sad diet, I mean, the standard American diet, you're eating a fiberless diet. We talked about that microbiome, or the microhome, right? The microbes literally depend on fiber for their diet. So the type of fibers that you put in your body is going to determine the type of microbes that appear, or the lack of fiber that you put in your body is going to cause them to appear or not to appear. But you have to understand that there is no space that's not taken up. So it'll never be, I just had me a nice cleanse, now I don't have any of these buggies inside of me. No, they're there. They're there. We have to continue to eat on a plant-based diet that is rooted in fiber, not just vegan snacks, but actual fruits, actual vegetables, high-quality grains. Get with somebody that know what they're talking about so they can introduce you to in the right way, because you can be vegan and malnourished. Mm-hmm. Because it's not just about eating foods to eat foods, it's about eating foods to get minerals and amino acids and vitamins and all these different pigments and stuff that go into your eyes and allow you to see. We gotta understand that you are what you eat. Y'all been telling us this since we was babies. Now we gotta actually understand what that means. Alcohol and tobacco. Y'all, don't make me spend too much time on that, y'all. Y'all gotta throw that one out. Right? Because when we're dealing with that alcohol, we are dealing with fructose, the type of sugar that we do not want, that is going to cause us to have a fatty liver disease. When we look at fatty liver disease, there is some involvement of the ACE2 receptors. Hey, people with fatty liver disease, what you mean? Like diabetes? Oh, people with diabetes are at a higher risk for COVID. Leave the alcohol alone. As well as the tobacco. Every time you smoke tobacco, chew tobacco, you're literally depleting your body of vitamin C. Vitamin C is what allows you to store iron inside of your body, to utilize iron inside of your body. So what does that mean? When you go to the hospital, what do they test you? Your ferritin levels? What is ferritin? Iron. Your storage of iron. So, herbal steams. Another thing that y'all can do super quick, super simple. You can take some grapefruit pills. You can take some lemon pills, some lime/key lime pills. I prefer key limes because they have seeds in them. And you can put maybe some eucalyptus oil, some rosemary oil, and boil this thing. Have your head over it. I like elderberry. I put a little elderberry in there. A little ginger root in there, and when you boil it at that steam, it's gonna come up, and you're gonna look in the mirror, you're gonna be like, "Ooh, I look good," because it's gonna go into your pores, and it's gonna clean your skin, it's gonna help with the inflammation, a bunch of different things, but it's also gonna allow you to increase your ability to receive oxygen. Remember we was talking about hypoxia, remember we was talking about cytokine storms, and that's the thing that's killing people with COVID.
Elderberry and what else? Elderberry and what else?
Elderberry, ginger, you put some eucalyptus oil, eucalyptus plant, some rosemary, citrus pills, just not the oranges, not those. No oranges. I'm not gonna bang on oranges right now, but when we want success, when we want something that's powerful, we're gonna go to the grapefruit, we're gonna go to the lemon, we're gonna go to the key lime. That's what we're gonna do. Therapeutic herbs. Herbs that you guys can take to reduce inflammation. I'm gonna give y'all a couple. Y'all can make this tea on y'all own. It ain't gonna cost y'all much. Y'all can have it sitting around the crib in the fridge. You're gonna have some directions too. Avoid malillumination. I'm standing in front of this screen right now. We talked about the body being a light body. So maybe the type of light that we interact with plays a role. In fact, the type of light that's coming from the screen on my phone, that's coming from the screen on your computer, that's coming from the screen on your TV is what's called blue light, artificial blue light. It goes directly into the back of the pigments, into the eyes. It can literally cause macular degeneration. We have a nerve in the center of our brain that regulates our sleep and wake cycle. A lot of people who have insomnia, they fall asleep with their phones in their hand. They be on Facebook, going to sleep. They be on TikTok, on Twitter, on whatever, going to sleep, and they wonder why I can't sleep, why I can't dream, why we up in the middle of the night. Because you're suffering from malillumination. You're not getting enough sun. You're not going out and catching the sunrise and actually getting a little sun gazing in, glancing and coming back, because these things are going to rebalance your hormone cascades, and all these different things are going to go into protecting you versus COVID. Because the thing is, we cannot avoid exposure. You can't smack a virus and tell them to get away from you. You have to be prepared when you are exposed. And 9 times out of 10, the majority of the people in this room have been exposed. You go to the store, I guarantee you they don't wipe off all the plastic. We know COVID can live on plastic for 3 days. Now what? Get out in that sun. And in addition to that, that blue light toxicity can literally degrade that mitochondria. We've been talking about mitochondria this whole time. That DNA from that mitochondria running the whole show, running the light body, that stuff is getting broken down by the blue light toxicity. This might be the most important part, y'all. Be a critical thinker. What I said is Google it. I hope you Google me. Please Google me. Because I'm standing on facts. But what happens is, we get a lot of misinformation in the news because the news don't get paid to be right. They get paid to show you news. They get paid to get views. You give it to them. But you want to give yourself the opportunity to proceed in a manner that is most conducive to your success when it comes to your health. We don't want to play around with false information. And that comes from me too. That means fact check. And we all have the same tool, because I did not go to college to learn any of these things, but I know how to work Google. Type in whatever it is you're looking for, and then scholarly articles right behind it. There we go. Back to vitamin D. Now I gotta get in the sun, real talk. We need to produce this vitamin D. So, make it practical, make it simple. What can you do in real time? I hope y'all take notes on this. This is a smoothie. Kiwi. Pineapple. Papaya. Chia seeds. I like to add hemp. The reason being is because we keep going to this microbiome, this population of microbes and bacteria and viruses that live in the body. What do they respond to? Foods that have a whole bunch of enzymes in them joints, that have fiber, that have vitamin C, that have B vitamins, that have all these different types of things in it, and that's exactly what you're going to get with this. When you eat a kiwi, you're getting loads of vitamin C, if not your daily amount. So you have that, you're getting vitamin C from this guy, you're getting vitamin C from this guy, and you're getting a load of enzymes from all of them. In fact, I suggest to anybody who's still eating meat, after you're eating meat, take you a slice of papaya and eat that joint. Because I know it's going to take you a little time to get off of that if you make that decision, but you want to still give your body some aid, even if you're doing the wrong thing at this particular time for yourself. Not wrong because you're wrong, but wrong because your body's asking for something else. It requires something else without deviating from that particular thing. And when we do, respect thy mother and thy father, and the days will be long. I believe that that's talking about your internal mother and father, those genes and their gates.
Yeah.
Kelvin's favorites. Okay. Stuff I like to keep around the crib. Grapefruit. I never get a fruit that's not seeded, so gotta be seeded. Loads of vitamin C, loads of lithium. The lithium will literally change your brain chemistry. If you're having a bad day, I promise you, you eat a grapefruit, you good. If you eat 2 of them, you're gonna feel like you finna win the lottery or something. Then you got your plums. Your plums have a lot of boron in them. The boron, this is a mineral. This mineral is antifungal. This mineral is very important for flu-like symptoms. Remember, we trying to handle your symptoms. We trying to take care of those. We're not trying to necessarily stop you from coming in contact with a virus because that's inevitable. You already have the common cold. You've been exposed to this family before. But we want to know how to fight it. We got some hemp seeds here. You're getting omega-3s. You're getting omega-6s, but importantly, you're getting it in the right ratio and one that'll be anti-inflammatory. You're getting zinc with that. You're getting magnesium with that. All the things that they're saying people with COVID are not having. They're showing deficiencies in these things. That's allowing their bodies to be taken over, to be utilized, to be abused, and to be used. My favorite, sea moss. This type, Chondrus crispus. It is an algae. This algae has the ability to rebuild tissues, connective tissues, particularly inside of the lungs, building those membranes back up, because we already went over how you're getting damage that's taking place from the COVID acting on the inside of you, which is causing yes, ma'am.
Where you get sea moss?
And I think, Jael, you have a version. You have an algae as well, right?
Oh no, I don't sell sea
No.
moss. Mm-hmm.
I sell sea moss. I don't have any on me right now. When I go back to Chicago, I'll have my business card. But it does a litany of other things, but that's a whole other presentation within itself. We just want to focus on rebuilding the tissues that are in the lungs, and we know for a fact that it helps with pulmonary disorders. So we deal with cardiovascular diseases as a whole.
Sea moss regenerates your tissues in your lungs?
Yes. Yes. It has these sugar-like starches that not only help you rebuild those tissues in the lungs, but literally help you rebuild certain tissues in the brain. When we talk about Alzheimer's, dementia, there's something called beta amyloid plaque that sea moss helps flushes from the brain. It helps rebuild the joint tissues and so on and so forth. All these things that I'm talking about, though, are resulting in inflammation. Yes, ma'am.
I also want to say that sea moss is just a generic name. It is a kingdom of over 200 different algae. Each one is different. There's some of them, each one is different.
Yeah. There's actually thousands of them. Red, blue, these, anyways. Tea time, y'all. So, no time. This is what y'all really gonna want. This is stuff you can do at the crib. It takes less than an hour to prepare this. Something called stinging nettle. Or you can just put nettle, Nettle. Very important for a whole lot of reasons. It is one of the herbs that I actually put inside of my own sea moss that I sell. But I'm telling you guys this because I want you to get the information for yourself, and you can be able to go grab these things from different herbal stores that Infinity can share with you guys.
It's cheap. I got a bag, a 2-pound bag of stuff for like $6.
You know what I'm saying? So when we look at that, we have to admit, a couple folks were saying, this is pricey. That's pricey.
So
how much does medical bills cost?
A lot more than that.
Chamomile. People be sleeping on chamomile. They think it's just to put you to sleep. It actually downregulates a lot of different inflammatory markers. Black walnut. Black walnut is very important for the virus. Dandelion leaf is the greatest source of iron that is documented on this earth. Iron is necessary to turn down the white blood cells. Fresh ginger root. I would have ginger root tea every day if I could. Fresh coriander or cilantro help with the detoxification of the heavy metals. One of the things I just realized I forgot to put on my favorites that I really employ each and every single one of you guys to grab is Brazil nuts. The mineral that allows our body to stay ahead of viruses is called selenium. Selenium is needed in higher proportions by black people than white people, at least double. But we are no longer the agriculturists of this country. With that being the case, the people who take care of the soil take care of themselves and not the other folks. So we need to get back into agriculture because we need to make sure that the selenium is in our soil along with all the other nutrients to make sure that we're good. Manuka honey, some fresh Manuka honey. Sweeten it, because it's going to be kind of nasty, but if you take that Manuka honey and kind of sweeten it, Manuka honey has some aspects of it to help your microbiome, so on and so forth. Quick directions here. Fill up the pot with a gallon of water. Place the ginger inside the pot. Let the pot boil for about an hour or so. Once that's taken place, you turn the fire off. Put all the other herbs inside of the pot and let that thing steep for about 30 minutes. When you come back, strain it, drink it, put that Manuka honey in it, make sure it's sweet. Like my mama said with me, don't find your mama in it. But it is good. So, of course.
You said that's an anti-inflammatory?
All these things are anti-inflammatory. I've done the research on all of them, and they down-regulate a lot of different things. Interleukins, different types of cytokines, different types of macrophages, all these different words that simply are other words for white blood cells. So I don't be trying to get too lost in these words, but sometimes you got to bring them forth so we can see what these people talking about. And if any of you guys want, I'll make sure you guys get this document if y'all didn't get a chance to get this. And so, to close out, so whether you eat or drink, or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Because ultimately, whether you are a religious person or not, there is a common intelligence that is greater than our own individual consciousness, but makes up the whole collective. I read a book called Ishmael, and I'll never forget this quote, and it said that life is a mosaic composed of tiny bits, and I believe that each and every single one of us just represent those bits. We have to fall in line the same way that little bitty water molecules are those bits, and when you look out into the ocean, it's a mosaic, you know? So we just got to play our role in that melody of sound. Sponsored by Light Body Records. Thank you guys.